So I'll just check it has actually started recording properly.
It says recording. It's live as well.
Yeah, right. It does.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So we are live on YouTube. We might say we've not actually promoted the address for this, so nobody will be able to find us until we publicise it as a podcast. So we'll edit it all before that happens. Oh, we've got Jackie also from the Keep Haverhill Recycling is just joining us as well. Okay, Kirsten, over to you.
Okay, so hello everyone that's here so far. I have my own business called the Eco News, which I have started up myself, running a sustainable newspaper. Basically, the newspaper is to share news about sustainable living, small businesses, news around the world that you don't hear about, and basically just shouting out about all the good that we're doing for the environment, what's not so good, but kind of keeping that happy balance so you understand that it's not a bad thing. What we are doing is making a difference, and that we've just all got to work together to get there in the end. So here is what I produce. It's a 28-page newspaper. I'm bringing out spring, summer, autumn, and winter editions. And I am just about to release a monthly newsletter as well that everyone could purchase throughout. So you're not waiting every 3 months for my newspaper. You can get news every month as well. And in the monthly newsletter, I'm going to do about simple sustainable swaps, events that are happening around the world, in the UK, and loads of just little top tips to keep you going. I also have a kids version, which I've brought out. And this is basically to help the younger generation, educate them. It's full of like fun activities, what you can make from recycled bottles and your recycled waste, and just basically trying to encourage them to do things for sustainable living as well. So my first topic is going to be like the EC household swaps that you can do. So my favourites are bamboo toothbrushes, reusable bags, cleaning products. Does anyone have anything that they've done that they enjoy doing, or any companies they've recently swapped to?
I quite like the little reusable cotton pads. They're quite good for skincare and taking off your makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, they're really good as well, because obviously they help reduce waste of the wipes, because we all know they're not made from sustainable material. Yeah, you just keep them and wash them. They're really, really good. Does anyone have anything that they've done? No. Got anything else, Saffron, that you've done?
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, because sort of I suppose you do it so gradually, don't you? You kind of forget what you have swapped. I think that's really important, sort of doing it gradually. Shampoo bars and shower gel bars are really great. That you can get a little tin to put them in, so you can take them away with you on holiday. And when we eventually get to fly again, it means you don't have to worry about counting it as a liquid going through the airport. So
that's a really good one, actually. Yeah, no, that is really good. Yeah, the shampoo bars, everyone's always worried to use, but to be fair, you just got to give them a bit of a chance, because obviously everyone's hair is used to their own shampoo. I find that people struggle not to believe in them, but they're no different to being in a bottle. They're just in a bar of soap. But yeah, you just have to use them a few times, and then your hair just naturally gets used to them. So yeah, they are a really good swap. So show you one of my favorites. I've got turtle bags. This company I really, really love. Obviously they're all mesh and bright colourful, so it makes shopping a bit more fun. And they use all natural dyes and colours, so that's a definite go-to if you're going shopping. Another one, I think Saffron as well, you like Smol, which is the big cleaning company. They do sprays, they do your dishwasher tablets, they do your laundry tablets. And this is a great one because everything comes in cardboard and they're just in little dissolvable packets inside. So you don't have any plastic waste. They literally just go in your dishwasher. And it's the same with the washing tabs for your washing machine as well. And they're on a monthly subscription. And what's really good about this is you calculate how many times you do your dishwashing or your clothes washing a week to month, and they calculate it for you and then they ship it out in the post. So it's a good way of not overbuying or overspending or wasting products. They pretty much work it out for you. And so far, to my calculations, they have sent them to me every time on time. So it's really, really good. So it's a good way to stop waste. And then I've currently run out of my toothbrushes. I'm literally waiting for them to arrive, but I use this company here called Little Green Orca, and they are basically a bamboo-based company. Everything they do is bamboo-based, and I've found that their toothbrushes are the best in terms of lasting long. Also, you find with bamboo, because it gets wet, it can get a little bit moldy and it kind of puts you off in a toothbrush, but they have decided on theirs just to use just a little bit of paint on the bottom, which they've used with natural dyes. So when you're putting it in your toothbrush holder, it then doesn't turn moldy. So it's really, really good. And also their toilet paper as well is the same. It's long bamboo pulp and things like that. So yeah, that's my favorite for a sustainable switch. And here again, another, like you said, the shampoo bars. This is Country Cottage. So these are, I think, Midlands somewhere, and they just make them at home. They started, I think, before lockdown, creating their own soaps. So there's a lot of different bars out there. So what I would say is if you're thinking of swapping to a shampoo bar, then keep looking, because you might find one that's suitable for your hair, because loads of people out there are starting to make them with different natural ingredients. So yeah, that's what I'd say on that. Does anyone have any questions on any sustainable swap ideas that they've had and they don't know of any companies that they could go to or anything like that?
I can add, I've recently swapped to a deodorant that's refillable.
Yeah, okay.
I've heard of them. They're called Wild. They're really great. It comes, they get in a little sort of tin, and you sort of can put the refills in there and sort of wind it up. Yeah, I've got I can show you the thing. Yeah, it looks like that. They're really, really great.
Yeah.
And a bit similar to Smile, you can sort of get a subscription. So however often you go through them, you can just sort of put it on repeat, and you don't have to worry about remembering to reorder it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I use Wild as well. I'm currently using the peach scent, which is very, very nice. It was their limited edition that come out a few months ago. Yep, Wild is really high up there in terms of they've completely worked out how to be sustainable. Like they've got the aluminium casing, so you know they're recyclable if you ever damage it or break it. The cartons that they come in, they're made from, I think is it special pulp as well?
Yeah, I think it is. It kind of feels like cardboard.
Yeah, it's like cardboard, but it's something mixed in there, so it's more plant-based and recyclable, so it's really good. Yeah, does anyone else have anything to ask? Okay, so the next topic for me was reducing consumption and waste. So we all know that we waste a lot of waste. So it's trying to just think of how we can reduce, obviously, the use of plastics. Fast fashion is obviously a big problem. Even when you're going to the supermarket, you just buy all your shopping and don't actually think about what it's packaged in. So just some simple things for me is when I go shopping, obviously you can't get everything out of packaging. Obviously your fruit and vegetables you can. There's a few meats obviously you can get out off the counter that is not already packaged. Your fish you can get off the counter, but most things you buy, it is packaged either in plastic, yeah, it's mainly plastic. So for me, what I do is I actually go more for the materials that are a bit more reusable. So for example, anything in an aluminium tin can is better than buying something plastic, because with aluminium they recycle it a lot more wider than they can plastic. Like plastic is only recycled a certain amount of times compared to aluminium. Aluminium's recycle rate is a lot higher. And another one that I always go to is glass, because glass can always be reused in a recycle bank. You can take that to any glass recycle bank. And also another thing as well is with jars, you can always use them at home. You just give them a wash out. You can turn it into a flower vase. You can create little pots for your sugar, tea and coffee. You can just use it for extra storage. So for me, I always go for the materials that seem better, and we all know that plastic is one of the worst competitors, shall we say, and that we need to reduce on it. So that's just a simple way of reducing the use of plastic when you're going shopping. Is just think about what material you're actually picking up and try and avoid the plastic materials, and go even for the cardboard. Cardboard's a lot more recyclable. Anything that's packaged up in a paper, just try and go to plastic as like your last option. And then moving to fast fashion, for us women, obviously we love to shop, but I think we all know over the years that fashion has kind of taken over in the way of, there's companies out there now that just release clothes for so cheap. They sell in thousands, and we know they only last 5 minutes. There is obviously male side as well. They have also got companies out there that are now starting to produce poor quality clothing. So yeah, I think fast fashion is something that we all need to tackle, and it on both sides, male and female. And I know people struggle on where to go. So I do know a few good places that have launched, and what I find works best for me. I'm just going to read the comments. Oh, okay. So Paul, I saw you're saying, yeah, I agree with Paul. Yeah, so good quality. I think that's the main key. It's all about quality. So for me, I find things are a little bit more expensive in the eco world, and sustainable manufacturing is not really up there in the ranking at the moment. It's all about producing things as quickly as you can. And also the thing with fashion is keeping up with the fashion trends. So that's what businesses are always doing. They're always working so quickly to get fashion out the door. Whereas for me, I think it's finding that product that you really love and putting your money towards that, and knowing that it's come from a good place and good materials. It's been manufactured correctly. It's done in a fair way. So another thing for me is, obviously you do get to a point where you might outgrow something. You might have ripped a sleeve, but there's ways around not just chucking it out and making it waste. So one big thing that I was quite proud of Facebook is Marketplace. That got obviously released, and for me, I think that's a great way for communities to swap items. So much stuff on there is advertised for free. You can sell things for a tenner, but that could be worth so much more for someone else. And I think it's just a good way to upcycle and recycle. So yeah, I think even though Facebook isn't one of globally known as a sustainable company or anything, I just think they've got a good feature there that people can use to recycle. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I use it all the time for myself. I've just moved house. For example, my sofa's downstairs. I got locally from someone recently 2 brand new sofas that they just didn't fit in their house. Unfortunately, the delivery got wrong, but for me it fitted perfectly. So there's always a way of working around the problems, because otherwise if I didn't take them, they would have gone back to the factory. You can't then resell them because they've been unpackaged, they've been touched, and then they kind of get chucked out as waste. So it's just trying to think of good ways to reuse. In terms of like the fashion side, you've got quite a few apps now and companies who are setting up websites where you can swap your clothing, which I think is brilliant. I've never experienced swapping yet, but it's something I definitely want to do. But at the moment, there's a lot of companies that are doing it, and I just don't know who the best person to go with. I use Vinted a lot, which is a great app. This can be for male and female. So you can upload your clothes, sell them, swap them, or just let people have them for £1 if you're trying to get rid of your clothing. So that's a really, really, really good app. Another one that's been released recently is called ThredUp. And this is more aimed at the higher end of brands. So the designer clothing. For celebrities, they're high-end fast fashion. They wear something once to an event and then it goes in the wardrobe. They've now offered for them to be able to sell their clothes. So you can go on there and see who's worn it, and then buy it and have it for yourself. So it's quite an incentive as well, for everyone out there to reuse clothes. So there's a lot of people now who, celebrity-wise, who are uploading to ThredUp. So it's really good, I think, as well, from that point of view, that everyone's trying to make a difference, because everyone knows in fashion, in the designer industry, it's even bigger because they're using clothes just there and then to model a event, or it's just a much bigger consumption. So I think it's good that they're now offering their clothes to anyone in the world, and if you've got a favorite celebrity, you can follow them and then say, oh yeah, I now own a bit of their clothing. So I think that's quite nice as well, for you if you've got someone that you follow. And I think it's good for designer brands because their brands are then being reused, and for those who can't quite afford them, you can then go on there and find it half the price. So it's really encouraging to do that. So there's lots of different elements in terms of fashion. Obviously, the most popular one and obvious one is charity shops. So for me, I absolutely love a charity shop. I feel like everyone should donate their clothes to charity, because obviously not are we only doing good for our planet, but we're doing good for charities out there as well. And yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites. Does anyone have any questions or any input of what they do for sustainable fashion?
I think just to repeat on sort of Paul's point of buying quality, like if you can afford to buy quality items and intend to wear them for a really long time, that's one of like the biggest things that you can do. And I know like a lot of sustainable companies as well, that maybe have like the B Corp or 1% for the planet sort of certifications. They kind of produce their clothes at a higher quality, so, and they're kind of bringing into account the sustainability as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just I suppose the most sustainable thing is the thing you already have
Yes.
at home. So yeah, I suppose that's like one way of reducing, isn't it? Just by not buying anything at all.
Yeah, that's it. And to be fair, you could not buy anything at all. You could go to the apps like Vinted and swap something that you've already got, or instead of going and buying something new, the most important thing to me now is not buying new. Go out there and find something unique. Like for me, one thing I've always been known for by my friends is having quite a different style to everyone. And I think that's because I go out there looking for something that you're not always going to find. The people bring out like limited edition clothing that you only would see once advertised, but then 10 years down the line, you'd forget about it. But it could still be out there. So I'm all about as well trying to bring back the old styles and the old trends and kind of rebranding them in that sense as well. So yeah, there's plenty of ways out there to recycle fashion, and yeah, just got to now and try and avoid the fast fashion as much as we can. And I think companies out there are now realizing that this isn't something they can carry on with, and they are trying, but unfortunately we all know that greenwashing is a bit of a problem. So there is a few companies out there who have already announced that they're sustainable when they're not, and you just got to be careful and just think about it before you buy, and try not to just believe in the advertising, because they know it's the future, but don't let them take advantage of your thinking. I would try and stick with just stick with what you know and try not to follow their trends, and try and think about what you're buying before you buy. And there's a lot of labels and certificates that they all need, so just do your research on those as well, and make sure that when you are buying, that you are keeping within the standards and what you know. Okay, so yes, so for me, what I'll do, Paul, is because you've mentioned about buying locally for food and helping British. So growing your own food is one of my big topics. So actually this week, and well, starting from the 24th of May, it's actually British Tomato Fortnight. So this is quite a good example of an event that's thrown in the UK. So basically, we're known in the UK for growing the best tomatoes. And to be honest, I think we can all grow tomatoes here. Like, we have such good British weather for it. And one thing I have always grown is tomatoes. But the reason behind British Tomato Fortnight is just to encourage people, to show them that we can grow here in the UK and we don't have to have everything imported. Because when you import the tomatoes, you've got to think they're grown abroad, they're then stored on a container ship, then they've got to get here, then they've got to be unpackaged and then transported to a shop. So you've got to think that tomato, before it even gets to your kitchen, has actually had quite a long journey. And for me, it always worries me to think, how has it survived that long in a journey, when you know that you can go pick a tomato in your garden and you put it in your fridge and it will only last you a few days? So how do we get tomatoes here so quickly? And how can they still be so fresh when they end up in our supermarkets? So for a big thing for me is definitely always look for the British label. Because when you see it's come from Spain or Italy, you just got to think to yourself, well, how has it got here, and how is it still this fresh? And unfortunately, it's not organic and it's not healthy for us. And we've got to support and look after our own countries as well, because our farming is a big part of our ecosystem, and that's worldwide, not just here in the UK. So we really, really do need to look after our lands and our farming. I definitely agree there, Paul, that buy British. So what I did through lockdown was, obviously lockdown wasn't a nice experience, but to get myself through, I actually hired an allotment in my local village for the year. And I've never done anything like this before. I've always grown tomatoes and spinach and cucumbers in my own garden, but because I had so much time on my hands, I wanted to give it a go. And I have to say, it was like the best experience ever for my age. It's probably a very random thing to say. You wouldn't really expect someone young to have their own allotment. And I have to say, I was the youngest up there watering my plants every night. I was up there with the people who have had allotments for years. So it was really lovely, but also very educational in the way of, they were so experienced. They helped me with growing all my vegetables. And I also done it in partner with my neighbour and her little girl. So it was really nice for her to learn as well on growing your own food. We'd go back in the evening and cook our own courgettes and share our recipes. It's really quite nice and rewarding that you've grown it yourself and then you're eating it yourself, and you see the process, so you know what's behind what you're eating, and it's really quite enjoyable. I think we grew it was quite a lot. We done cucumbers, raspberries, strawberries, butternut squash, spinach, sweet corn. So we had pretty much our own little farm, and it was absolutely amazing. Does anyone here grow anything of their own? No. No. Oh, so well, there we go. So maybe that's one thing you can take home. It's going to be a nice sunny weekend. Maybe pop to the garden centre and get yourself some seeds, and maybe just all you need is like tomatoes is the easy one. You literally need a garden pot, some soil, and a couple of bamboo sticks to hold up the vines, and literally plant them. Let them get a little bit stronger, plant them inside first for a couple of weeks, let them sprout, and as soon as they're just like 3 inches up the bamboo stick, then pop it outside. Make sure you water them every night, and then 4 to 6 weeks down the line, you have a good produce of tomatoes. for the next month or two. So yeah, it's definitely a good way of knowing that your own vegetables is basically your own organic. So yeah. Oh, Paul, so you had green beans and carrots. Oh, carrots is a good one. They're really quite interesting to watch grow, actually. Yeah, you kind of have to stick your finger in the soil to see how much they're growing down. So that's a really quite interesting one to grow. I haven't actually done green beans, so maybe I'll try that. But yeah, it's really important, I think, to eat your own vegetables. And like you say, you then decide what you're having for dinner and you go pick it from your garden, prepare it and cook it. For me, I think that's really important. Does anyone have anything on that?
I suppose as well, like growing your own veg kind of makes you realize how much effort goes into growing food, and it probably helps reduce food waste. I suppose if you're picking it straight from the plant, you don't have to worry about the other ones on the plant going off too quickly. So you can kind of just use it as and when you need it, I suppose, to a certain extent anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously food waste is obviously another big problem, because we mass produce everything, and it gets imported. Like I said, like we don't know how long it's actually been on the container ship, and we don't know how long it's taken to get to the shop. So a big thing I think supermarkets struggle with is you go in a shop on a Friday and they will have everything reduced, and for me that's quite scary to see how many yellow labels you actually see around a supermarket at the end of the week, and you know for a fact that doesn't go anywhere afterwards. It probably does go into a bin, or yeah, unfortunately you can't do anything with it. So I think that's one thing by buying only UK based, or wherever you're based, is important, because you're definitely helping food waste go down if you're just buying locally. And like you said as well, I use local farm shops quite a lot, because you can get to a Sunday and go, oh, I fancy making a roast dinner today, and you can go get all your vegetables locally, and then you don't spend the money buying bags of onions, bags of potatoes, and then if you don't use them by the end of the week, there's always that way of then, oh, it's gone off, what do I do with it? You don't really want to put it in your compost waste bin, or you don't want to put it in your bin. But one thing that's quite popular, it sounds really odd, but a lot of people do like a moldy veg stew or a lasagna, or they make it into a soup. It's one thing actually during winter, me and my partner done quite a lot. We called it moldy stew weekend. So we would literally just gather everything left over in the fridge, and just put it in a stew. So yeah, that's another good way as well. Don't think that just because it's got a little bit of mold on it that you've got to chuck it in the bin. You can cut the mold off if obviously you'll know if it's way past its date, but yeah, don't think as well that mold is a bad thing in sense of like, oh yep, it's got mold on it, it's gone off. You can get the mold cut off and put it into something, and make a glorious soup or stew. So yeah, it's just thinking as well what other ways you can use it. Like another one of my favorites is like if I've got some plums or apples left over and I know by the end of the week I'm not going to eat them, I'll put them into an apple crumble or make them into a pie. Or a favorite I did last week was banana cookies. So there's always just ways that you can actually kind of recycle your food as well in a strange way. Just try and think outside the box a little bit and put it into different recipes that you wouldn't really think of. When I say to people, oh, do you want a banana cookie at work, they're a bit like, no, I'm okay. It sounds a bit odd because you're used to your chocolate cookie, but yeah, there's always ways that you can make things sweet using your fruit. Does anyone else have anything else on that?
Banana loaf bread, or loaf cake's really nice as well.
Yeah, so that's where people think I'm a bit strange at work because I bring in banana cookies and they're like, oh, isn't it supposed to be banana bread? So yeah, but that just proves that you can make it into anything. I always put my fruit into cookies. I just have always made cookies since I was younger. And also my recipe doesn't include eggs, which people think that's quite strange, but that's where again you kind of got to think out loud. Like there's always ways to make something without using all food consumption, because obviously poor old chickens, we know they obviously get in the big farms. They get used a lot for producing lots of eggs and chicken. So that's one thing I just try not to use things that I know that are used a lot. So there's always around it.
Could you share some of your recipes? Maybe we could put them up on the website or something. If there's
Yeah.
the best recipes for leftover food might be a
Yeah. So yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I'll make a note to do that for you. So what was another one? So I guess back to greenwashing. Obviously this is a topic. So how do you tell who is greenwashing? Okay, so that's a good question. So H&M is going to be my example. So this is quite a good example. So H&M are a big fashion brand for women, men, and kids. I think they also do homeware and stuff like that sometimes. But basically, everyone knows the future is sustainable living and sustainable materials. Recently, H&M have already launched adverts on the TV with children involved, saying about how they want to save the planet, how they want to do this, how they want to do that. Unfortunately, they may be advertising that they are doing sustainable change and they've changed their materials, they've changed their way of producing. They're trying to basically promote that they've already made a change, but it doesn't happen that quickly. It is a lot of work and time and effort that goes into it. There's one company out there who is really working hard towards it, and I follow them quite closely, which is Superdry. The owner of him, he has a background of organic cider. He has a background of organic farming, supporting them. He has, a much bigger story behind what he's doing. And Superdry is obviously another big fashion brand. And for me, you can just see the difference. H&M have come out of the blue, and all of a sudden they've got delivery vans that are covered in green writing, save the planet, we are sustainable. For me, that's not how it should come across. You should see the progress and the story and all the effort that they're making to get to being sustainable. So greenwashing, you just got to kind of take a step back and think, well, what have they really done? For me, it's all about the story about what they're doing. So also another thing as well is in terms of like the trademarks that they should have, like you've got fair trade, you've got organic cotton, FSC for trees. That's all important information as well. And you would look on H&M and you can't see any of this information, whereas you can see with Superdry, they're being shouted about by big magazines, they're being shouted about by the news, because he really, really has made an effort. And you can see that he's working with farmers in Italy. He's working with everyone, whereas H&M, you don't know who they're working with. You haven't seen any information about what they're doing. You haven't seen how their journey has started. It is literally all of a sudden just come out of the blue that we are sustainable. And to me, it just has no story. So that's kind of a way to tell about greenwashing. It's all about research and understanding of the business. And that's one thing that I really, really look into. And if you want to make sure that you're not being greenwashed, do your research on the company, read about it, see what they really, really have done, because you should be able to find it if they have done it. And unfortunately, H&M is one of those ones that there's just no background story at the moment. Anyone else got any questions?
I suppose just to add to that, I guess it's like any kind of brand that makes a sudden switch from being like a regular brand to having, as you say, everything green. And I guess that's kind of alarm bells. And there's quite a lot of words as well that that haven't got like a legal definition. So like I think the word sustainable, like legally doesn't actually mean anything, and anybody could claim to be sustainable because you don't have to like prove that you are. I know obviously things like organic, you do need to make sure you've got those certifications there, and it, is a requirement. That, I suppose that makes it quite tricky, doesn't it?
Yes, basically sustainable is overall, it's not defined. We're trying to sustainably live. So there's not really a definition behind that. I totally agree. Anything organic, anything vegan, and it just those two words are actually the more important words. Sustainable is not up there. You need to find those two words. Like fair trade, that's important. That's the things you want to look for, and also for obviously with trees, FSC, that there is things you do need to look out for. And for me, sustainable change is what we're doing. It's not a label. I totally agree with that.
It's so difficult, sort of with the fact that you can't like guarantee that it's something is sustainable just because it says it is. It would be great if we could get that kind of standard, but I guess that's why we've got the B Corp and 1% for the planet. There's also, is it Cradle to Cradle was another one, like another certification that's like one of the top certifications. If a brand's got that, they've sort of absolutely done everything they possibly can sustainability wise.
That's it. There's a lot of companies out there now who they are like your main certified companies that you want to look for. So Colin, you've mentioned about symbols and logos can be confusing, and they can be, and unfortunately there's people that use symbols out there that they think they mean something, but they haven't actually done their research on the company. We'll have to maybe share to everyone after on here or on the website, like good labels to look out for. And also what's the hardest thing is you've got the labels out there that are classed as certified, but also you don't actually know what the story is behind the labels and how they got there. So labels and logos and certification, what words mean, it is really hard. And I think that's why the whole story of greenwashing has started, because people aren't using things in the right way. So just got to, more the research the better. Like for me, like you said, things are recyclable. So there's a lot of companies out there now. Amazon are actually quite bad for this. So most of their products, they're bringing out their organic range, their vegan range, and saying it's 100% vegan or it's 100% recyclable. Then unfortunately, when you actually get into the depth of the product, you look further down at the details and you'll see that it says 70% is recyclable. And for me, I don't know how companies get away with saying they're recyclable when it's only a certain percentage. Like what's the other 30%? And that to me isn't acceptable. We should all be feeling like we can trust what we're buying. And that's one thing I've heard a lot recently, is that everyone is making out that they're recyclable, but actually when you get down to the nitty-gritty side of it, it's only like 50%, 70%, 60%. Well, why are we not at 100%? If you can get that far up, what's stopping you from getting so far? So for me, I think that's where as well people struggle, that when you get to 70%, I think they can't get to the 100% because they don't quite know how to get a certificate, or they're not willing to get to the certificates that they need. And also trying to get to the certified certificates is probably hard for people because it's going to cost money. It's going to be more money in materials. Production is going to be higher. And also I think people were scared to make that jump because once they turn to sustainable, really there's no going back. And for me, one thing I find is everyone says that eco products are a lot more expensive. Of course they're going to be, because they're made by better materials. The way that we're manufacturing at the moment isn't the way that we're remanufacturing. We need to kind of take the movement forward that eco-friendly products is the future, and eventually you will find the price will settle down and it will even out, and it will get lower, but you need more people to do it to make it worthwhile. You need to produce more. You need to. It's like how all these companies started years and years ago. You've got to start somewhere. So I think that's where we've got to really, really back the eco companies and push them and share about them, shout about them, buy them, and just force them on. Saffron.
Just wondering, as you're saying, obviously they are a little bit, sort of expensive, I suppose, and maybe for a household or a family it might not be something that's doable, at least maybe not for every single product. So I suppose two questions really. Number one, if you can't afford sort of those eco products, is there anything you can do to support those brands and or maybe do you know what I mean, to get the word out there even if you can't support it financially? And secondly, if you are going to make some swaps, and maybe you can't afford to make all the swaps, but you can maybe afford to make a couple. What would be the best swaps to make, sort of the most affordable swaps for people, or even saving money? Because there's so many eco things that you can do that do save money as well. So I was just wondering what your sort of advice would be for people who maybe have a more of a limited income, or don't, want to spend that income, I suppose.
So obviously for those that can't make the swaps because things are expensive, for me, I would just support them in the way of like, tell your friends about them, or maybe message them and say, can you suggest something that I can do to make a bit more of a easier swap. There's a lot of companies out there, because they are small, they might even give you a free gift and just see how you get on. It's all about small businesses. It's all about support for them. They're not out there to make the money from you. They want to make a difference, and I think that's the most important thing behind our brands. And making swaps isn't easy. Like, you can't make all your swaps in 1 week and think, right, I've done it. It is expensive, and I think that's where people are struggling most. But like you said, there's so many things that you can do which isn't going to cost you money. I actually did do in my first edition, it's just a tick list once a month. Just make that swap, and then by the end of the year you've actually done 12 swaps, and because you've done them all, you don't realize them 12 swaps actually make such a massive impact for the year. And if everyone did that, then we're making massive progress already. So it's just getting there, and it's going to take a few years for the changes to take place and things like that. So for me, like the most simple things is your toothbrush. So you buy your toothbrush from your local store, have a look online and just see if there's one company that you really like, that you'd like to support, and see if they do a bamboo one. Another one is toothpaste. There's a company out there called Eco Living, and they basically do like little tablets, and it's exactly the same price as buying your Oral-B toothpaste. Because one thing as well, you've got to think, some of our stuff is quite expensive to buy. Our toothpaste can be expensive, a bottle of mouthwash can be expensive, and for things like healthcare and looking after yourself, you do go for the expensive products. Obviously, as women, we go for expensive hair products. For men, they go for expensive shaving products. So when you actually balance it out as well, sometimes it works out the same price, because eco products also last longer, whereas when you buy something from the supermarket, it could be cheaper, but it won't last as long. So there's a lot of like factors to take into place when you are shopping eco. It's not about expense only as well, it's about how long it lasts. So for me, a good one example is like the shower blocks for washing yourself, the shampoo and conditioner bars. You buy a bottle of shampoo, it will last you a month or two. A shampoo bar can last you up to 3 to 4 months. So when you actually think about the price, it kind of then balances itself back out. So yeah, it is really, really, really hard. But there's different ways that you can counterbalance your spending, or if you feel like, oh, I want to make that swap, don't feel like you've pressured and you've got to do it there and then. Just think, oh, what else could I do before I can get to that point. Just do the little swaps first. The bigger swaps will come in the future, and I think as time goes on, it will get a lot easier for everyone. But yeah, there's loads of things. I know as obviously parents, obviously having your kids as well, it's a struggle for them. Making your kids, obviously they might not want to make the swap changing their toothbrush. They might have a favorite character toothbrush, but there is people out there who are trying to make fun with kids as well, and doing like colorful toothbrushes, like dyeing their bamboo in a plant-based dye. So yeah, it's again, it all goes back to research, and yeah, I'm always happy to suggest companies out there. Yeah, is that all right? Is there anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I suppose, as you're saying about emailing companies, I suppose that's a good thing to do. If maybe there's a brand that you like and you want to stick with them and they're an affordable price, you could email them to say, I really like your products, but could you maybe make your packaging out of cardboard, or could you make a bamboo toothbrush, or or whatever, to sort of maybe, I suppose, make it more mainstream, and I suppose make if you ask and ask and ask, maybe eventually you might get somewhere.
This is the thing. Yeah, the future is changing our products. So yeah, if there is a company out there that you love, why not reach out to them and email them and say, look, why can't you do this? Or yeah, change to cardboard, try and reduce plastic. Or if you think you've got an idea, try and help them out. Everyone kind of knows that it is going to be the future, and I think we've all got to work together and just do our best on trying to reduce our waste. And yeah, I that's a really good point. I think reaching out to everyone, and also if you can't buy from them, don't feel bad. I would say do something else in return, like share their link to their shop or shout about them on your social media page. It's not about just buying their products. It's just about sharing the companies who are trying to do good for the planet. Yeah. Anything else on that?
Do you have a personal favorite swap? Like a favorite thing that is definitely better than the thing that you swapped from, if that makes sense.
Probably the small subscription. I think that's my favorite. It's quite good as well because I used to spend ages in a shop thinking, oh, well, which dishwasher tablets are going to do the best job, or what laundry caps should I get this time? Whereas they come through my door and I just put them in my dishwasher and I put them in my washing machine, and I don't always have loads sitting in the cupboard. It's just generally there in the cupboard, ready for use. And yeah, I don't feel like I'm overcrowded with products. And yeah, I definitely would say as well, like the shower gel and shampoo blocks are my favorite up there. I tried a lot of companies now, and they're just doing a great job, and things are only getting better as well. You got to think that people are taking on your feedback because they're small businesses. It's all new to them, so they're doing their best. So yeah, it's just working with everyone and giving your feedback. And stick to your favorites once you found them.
That's been really fascinating hearing all of the different things, encyclopedic knowledge you have of sustainable living. I was wondering if it was worth asking people either through the chat or speaking out loud if they wish. Don't have to start their video if they don't want to. Mm-hmm. If people have any local shops they know, or the market, or any tips, etc., that haven't been discussed yet, and also where they find out about their good ideas for sustainable living as well.
Yep.
Give people a little chance to either tap something into the chat or think about what they want to say. Are there any local outlets around here that you've particularly spotted, Kirsten?
So for me, a favourite farm shop of mine. So if you're wanting to buy local vegetables and meat and stuff like that, is Willow Tree Farm Shop in Glemsford. They were actually quite a big establishment now. They've actually opened up their own cafe as well. So it's really nice that you can go there and eat food for breakfast and know that it's come from their farm. And they've also now got goats and things like that. So they're a really good one that I'm really following. And I shopped there a lot through lockdown because obviously traveling into your local supermarket wasn't really allowed. So I used that farm shop. And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And they have a fishmonger there as well, I think every Wednesday. So there's not a lot of options there. You can get your meat, you can get your fish, you can get your vegetables, and obviously they don't pack anything in plastic. It's all just freshly produced. So yeah, Willow Tree Farm Shop's a good one for local food.
They've got
I know it's the Felix Stowe, Lowestoft rather, the guy who appears Fridays in Clare is there on Wednesdays as well.
Yeah,
sorry,
he's there. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, they've got the big freezers there as well at the Willow Tree Farm Shop, haven't they? And you can sort of, I think it's a biodegradable bag that you get, and they do like fruits. So if you make smoothies, I think they have like frozen pastries as well, which are great. Like to have,
they're really good.
Frozen pastries just sat in the freezer. It's a nice.
They have fish cakes as well, and like they're like 59p each, which to me that's absolutely amazing. And you just know that everything that they've got in there, to their meat, to their fruit and veg, like all their fruit and veg is obviously grown on their farm, and then you know that it's all locally sourced, so it's a really, really good point of contact for everything. They have also jams in there, chutneys, yeah, sauces. So they're a really, really good source.
There's a comment in the chat from Aaron saying, Paul and Aaron are both saying about how good the market is. But Aaron's also mentioning Karen's jams and chutneys. Take back the old jars, sterilise and reuse.
Yeah, see, that's absolutely brilliant. Like I said, for me, I always reuse my glass jars because, for one, that they're long lasting, they're not going to break unless you drop them, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a good way, and yeah, for me that's really encouraging that they take them back, because you're only going to go back there again and buy another jam jar if you really enjoy it. So why not take them back and let them reuse them? So yeah, that's really, really good to do that. Haven't been there, so I'll give that one a go.
I have a good impression perhaps younger people are slightly nervous about going to a market in terms of buying their food that way loose. If it's in a supermarket, it's all printed and written on, and it's all really clear how much something costs. Because I think the ability to know how the weight of food is something that is kind of been lost since sort of local butchers closed down. And I know there's a new one open in Haverhill, but it's a habit that people have lost. If you want 4 chicken breasts, what's that in weight wise? People can count to 4, but they haven't got a clue what it means in weight wise. And I wonder whether markets can be intimidating for younger people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this. So it's actually really strange. So Jamie's Butchers, that's actually opened in Haverhill, I used to work for them in their Sudbury branch when I was younger. So I started there. My whole family have worked with them on a Saturday. So that was my first Saturday job. And for someone that was young, it was really quite scary going in there and being the other side of the counter where I had to serve people the meat, because they would come in and it was obviously the older generation that would always be queuing at the door on a Saturday. And they would say, oh, yeah, I want my 500 grams of mince. And for me, I was like, oh, I don't know what that looks like. So you obviously rely on the scales and you learn it. But I totally agree. Like, I wouldn't know anything about weights if I didn't do a job like that. So yeah, going to the market from the other side, if I hadn't had that experience, I would go there and I wouldn't quite know. But for everything, as an example, even though I did that when I was 16, I don't remember the weights now. So a way I would see it is don't be scared. Don't think you've got to go there and tell them that you want things in weights. Just say, could I have 4 apples, please? Could I have 10 rashers of bacon, please? And kind of do it in that sense of a way that you understand. They won't judge you for not knowing what weights are, but just have confidence in going there and knowing what you want. Because when you go in the supermarket, you're going to pick up either a packet of 3 peppers or pick up 5 that are singularly on their own. So if you know what you're going to buy, just go to the market and say, yeah, can I have 5 apples, please? They're not going to look at you and think, oh, you don't know the weight. There's other ways around it, and I don't think you should be scared to go to the market. The market is a great place, and everyone is so friendly because they run their own businesses, and if anything, they will help you, they will teach you. And if you go back to them every week, then you never know, by the 6 months down the line, you might know what 500 grams of mince is.
I suppose the farm shop's probably a good maybe in between. If you're a bit too nervous to go to a market, maybe try the farm shop first.
Yeah, because the farm shop is good. The Willow Tree Farm one definitely has like plaques where they write the weight and what the price is. So for you could start like going, holding it up and going, oh yeah, that's quite good. Or then you can take that information from the farm shop to the market when you next go.
There's been some great suggestions about going to the market, etc., Karen's jams and chutneys, etc., and also Mario. I don't actually know. I assume that's the name of a market stall holder, because that's the other thing, of course, is they don't always have the names up. So you can say go to Mario's, and we'll have to guess that one is. But again, baked goods in paper bags, getting away from that plastic.
Yeah, that's really, really good.
So I wonder where people get their ideas from, because is it all social media, or are there any Facebook sites locally that people use? Do you have any favourites particularly, Kirsten?
So there is big communities on Facebook, like worldwide communities. So there is a sustainable living Facebook group that I'm on. I think it's called Sustainable Living, Eco-Friendly and something. But I think it's got about 40,000 people on there. And for me, the education that I get from there is worldwide. And it's really good for everyone shares their ideas. And it's really good and it's really informative. Like, you could go on there and say, I've got this left over, what shall I do with it? And you would get 20 comments come straight back going, oh yeah, look, I've done this before. And I think that's really important. And it's nice that there's like a worldwide community of it. But again, I think more local communities should have their own sustainable living groups and work together as a community, because obviously we're all experiencing the same lifestyle, whereas obviously worldwide everyone lives completely different. So people have got ways they're living in a forest, or there's just different backgrounds and scenarios to everyone's life. So yeah, I think it's more important to bring it back to the community and try and help each other out, make suggestions on swaps that you've done, what you really enjoyed, what you wouldn't suggest. Recycle ideas. I think it's just really important to just keep sharing. I would say that's probably my favorite group, just because it's so educational and there's so many people behind it. But it would be quite nice to have a group which is a bit more localized that you can work with, to work even closer with your own community and see what you can do together. Because it's more important, I think, to work closer together. Even though obviously worldwide we all need to make sustainable change and start living more sustainable. I think as communities we need to be a little bit stronger. Saffron?
I was just going to say, I suppose as well as social media, I suppose just talking to people, especially probably some of the older people in your lives, because a lot of the sustainable living stuff is kind of just coming back around from what we did anyway.
Yeah.
Like, generations ago. And, maybe your parents have learned something from their grandparents or like their grandparents, and, talking about it, with your family about, how did you do this before? Because obviously a lot of the disposable stuff that's come in is new. Well, relatively new, not new, but I suppose talking to people, maybe asking grandparents or parents what they used to do, that could be something.
I think as well, don't be scared to talk about it. There's a lot of people out there that think like, oh, I'm just one person, how am I going to make a difference? But if we all had that attitude, nothing's ever going to change. So I think we just need to talk about it more. And I've really enjoyed obviously talking to you guys about it and everyone else over the last couple of weeks. I just want to talk more and more about it. And it's just all about research and reading. And you can obviously tell that I don't stop reading about it. It's just getting involved really, and that's the important thing. And hopefully as a community, Haverhill as well will come out of the shell in tree planting, more recycle projects and things like that. It'll all slowly get there. We just got to pull together as a team and think of great ideas. And everyone's idea is a good idea as well. So if anyone's got an idea, then bring it forward.
Certainly in terms of sharing ideas, I think perhaps one of the things we want to turn to look at is how we can help share those ideas and encourage more people to get involved. Obviously, we have some big Facebook sites in Haverhill already, and we have John on the call now, who is one of the coordinators for the very biggest one, Haverhill UK. I know, and Saffron can confirm details, whether you've heard anything more about our social media specifically for Sustainable Haverhill. I know Sarah, our marketing manager at the Town Council, was working on that. Don't know whether you've heard anything more.
No, I think it's still just in the running at the moment. It's obviously, it would be really great to, I suppose, act as a bit of a, like kind of almost a hub. So like there's loads and loads of stuff going on in Haverhill already. It's like, obviously on this call we've heard about the jams and things in the market. you know, to be able to share that information on like one platform and maybe, you know, work with some of the other groups. And if I've noticed anything this week, it seems that like there's so many things that overlap, especially with this and the recycling. I imagine it probably overlaps quite a lot with the energy as well. So
composting, and
yeah.
the tree wardens will look at hedgerows as well. So a bit of foraging information will come to it. You're absolutely right there.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. You just need
Disappearing again a little bit, Kirsten.
Oh,
Am
am I back?
disappeared for a second.
Oh, sorry. It was my internet. Yeah, so like you said, I think we need to have a main hub. So people like me, people at the market, who are doing good things, local businesses can just all join in and shout, this is what we do, this is how you can help. And I think it'd just be a bit more of a good community spirit for someone to go to. And if there's something they're looking for in particular, like I want to make a swap but I don't know who to go to, I think that's the good.
So I was wondering whether perhaps what our kind of takeaway from this can be is that we plan to make sure that the various different social media channels that we set up for Sustainable Haverhill follows as many different local sustainability groups, so that it becomes a natural central feed, so that it's retweeting and reposting all the different things that are already going on, and so people can have a look at that, and also others that follow it will get those things as well. And I probably also have to look at, as you say, some offline stuff for how we can help other people. And think about how we can perhaps pick up stuff in the local newspaper, or put stuff out on some of the local notice boards, letting people know that groups exist. Hopefully we'll get back to the opportunity to meet face to face, so that a lot of groups can get together.
Yeah, again, because the conversation can be a lot more in depth. Obviously, we know we're all been stuck on Zoom the last year, but again, like you said, when you're face to face, conversation gets flowing and people aren't scared to ask questions, whereas obviously on here it's a bit more difficult, whereas you can kind of be yourself when it's in person. I think it'll be really, really good. And like you said, putting up some flyers and things like that, it's just good to get it known out there, I think.
Does John or Aaron have anything they want to add? Either you can come on live just on your audio, or pop something into the chat if you prefer to do that.
I came in very late into the meeting, so I'm not certain what was. I was in a Great Cambridge Partnership meeting as well, so I apologise. So no, I've got nothing to add. I think from what I've heard anyway so far, I'd have to watch the podcast back. Thanks, Colin.
Great, thanks. Aaron wants to say anything or put anything in the chat.
I just think tying up with the market is probably a good idea. Whether we can have some signs or something made, Colin, to almost certify market stalls that are doing good things.
Although whether that would then suggest the others aren't, but it would be good. I was wondering actually whether some of the people from the market might be able to do something for the schools in terms of talking about where some of the veg etc comes from, or whatever it might be, so that because I think there's a lot of people actually don't even recognise the veg in its natural state, and are quite surprised to discover it doesn't arrive sliced.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got people like Karen that already want to do things up at the community kitchen. She's probably a great person to talk to.
Yeah, definitely. And you and John, obviously, you do the Haverhill UK website, so that's useful, or sort of website, Facebook page rather. So that's something that can certainly help spread any useful sustainability messages. Is there anything else that we need to cover this evening? We've covered so much with Kirsten. It's been really, really interesting. Okay, in that case, I think what I'll do, I'll thank you, Kirsten, for hosting this today. It's been really absolutely fantastic. I'll just stop the live stream now,